everybody. Welcome to What to Watch. I'm Clint Gage.
I'm Jackie Jing.
And with us as always, David Griffin.
Glad to be here again.
Today we are talking about the most terrifying show on television. Can we call it that? Can we agree to just throw a most in front of the word terrifying?
I would say it's the most terrifying. I mean, you know, we had the Night King. We have Godzilla coming out, but
done with all
They
that.
got nothing
these
on
guys
this.
have nothing
Nothing.
on this show we're about to talk about.
So the show we're talking about is Chernobyl,
Yes.
which is it's so difficult to watch, right? Like it's one of those shows that's hard to recommend in a way because it's great. It's an incredibly well-made show, but it's so sad.
So because of
goodness.
what we
You're
do,
gonna feel terrible when you're watching the show.
yeah, because of what we do, people come up to us and ask, like, hey, what should we watch? What's on TV right now? We just had a nice long holiday weekend, and it was like, what should I watch right now? I got some time over the weekend. I'm like, what you should check out is a show called Chernobyl.
Right,
They're
just
like,
in time for summer,
and then you start describing what it is, and I'm like, wait, actually, maybe you should check
Have
it
you
out.
been recommending it to people?
I have, because I think it's the best thing on right now.
It is
It's not the
too
easiest
heavy,
thing to watch
man.
right now.
It's too heavy.
But I think it's the best show on right now. After
Yeah.
Game of Thrones is over.
It's even just watching the first trailer of it when it came on after, I can't remember which episode of Game of Thrones, but it led straight into a trailer for Chernobyl, and I was not emotionally prepared to watch that
Yeah.
trailer at the time. Like it's intense. But one of to get into some sort of the technical aspect of it and like why it's so specifically intense, there's a true story factor of it all. But it is an incredibly well-made show on a lot of technical levels, and it does a lot of things that make it essentially a monster movie. It's like everything that The Happening did wrong, with like The Wind being the bad, like having this invisible bad
And
guy,
Bird Box and all that.
yeah. Like this is doing absolutely right. Like the fact that radiation is portrayed as a monster in this show is incredible.
And how they also portray the radiation itself, because you can't, with our naked eye, you can't necessarily
see it.
perceive what radiation is.
Yeah.
We could walk right into it, not even know until something happens to us. But what they have is they have these radiation meters. You hear that like, that ticking noise, and it gets more intense, and it kind of like weighs you down. It makes you feel claustrophobic. Like as soon as these guys go into a really a high radiation level area, it just makes you so nervous and scared for them, because internally all these bad things are happening. It's not like a monster is going to come out and get them, but it's worse than that.
Yeah.
It's that fear of knowing what's going to happen after, how their bodies are going to break down, their skin's going to melt away, how even if they were further away, they're going to get cancer and die 2 or 3 years from now, or how a mother who's pregnant with a baby, their baby's probably going to die because of all the radiation. It's just, it's harrowing. It's really hard to watch.
What you're describing is worse than any horror movie could portray to me physically.
It's real. It's not
Yeah.
Freddy or Jason coming out of somewhere.
Yes.
It's real. Yeah, it's good.
Well, there's a lot of like iconic imagery that they use too. Like even like there's this scene like wading through water in the dark.
Yeah.
Like that's straight out of Aliens, right? That's straight. There's a handful.
And their flashlights are failing because the radiation.
That's scary. Me even talking about it.
There's
Yeah.
a handful. They use these like what we know of from monster movies. These sort of horror movies that we're all used to. There's a visual language that this show is applying to a real life tragedy to make it a horror movie, which is an incredibly interesting choice because the subject matter itself is moving enough to be scary and to be terrible. Like you were talking about, like just thinking about it, it just kind of makes you real for a minute. But the visual language that they're using all of this iconic imagery from monster movies, and there's that's a shared sort of thing that we know as moviegoers and as TV watchers or whatever. And to see it applied to this real life tragedy is super interesting.
And everything's very personal. So it's not like, again, even though this is a big deal across a large scale and the radiation spread out over miles and miles and miles, they keep the danger and the fear and all the death and the sorrow, they keep it very personal. They follow a few characters around. When somebody dies, you're not seeing usually like 10 people at once die. You're seeing one person going through a very horrible transformation with their wife next to them. They keep everything very personal. So you feel connected to a character that maybe you only met for a couple minutes. It's not like they have a long arc. There's only 5 episodes.
Yeah.
And they get through a lot in 5, and every episode is just, it's intense.
The one thing when we were speaking earlier that you talked about that made me kind of want to dive into this, though. I'm still think it's super scary and it's really depressing, but you were talking about all the heroism that came out of this horrible disaster. So
I think that's one thing to mention too.
So that is what we think of Chernobyl. Let us know what you think about it in the comments. And as always, for more What to Watch, stick right here on IGN.